the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex on Flex.
All right, everybody, we are here again. This is the Flex Network. I am Matt, and on the other side of the glass, as always, not as always, but again, back for another Dynasty Flex podcast. Shane, Sugar Shane.
Sugar Shane Sealy, that's me, baby. How you doing?
Sugar Shane. Hey, I'm doing good. Happy Father's Day. A lot of people listen to. Thank you. And a lot of people listen to this after the fact a lot of the times, and so we're recording this Father's Day night. What did you get a chance to do anything special or super fun or breakfast in bed? I feel like the moms always get breakfast in bed. Like, what's up with that?
No. We have to work. No, actually, it wasn't too bad. So I went and had brunch at my parents' house. So for my dad, and then I've got a 5-year-old. So we went on a hike out in the mountains. I live in Calgary, so we're about 45 minutes to an hour from the mountains. We went and had a beautiful hike, had a little picnic, and made our way back here for this.
Oh, yes, that's right. So today we are talking Dynasty Startup. We did a little bit different things this year. A lot of Dynasty Startups, they include the rookies. We are doing 2 drafts in our Listener League. We did the Vets draft, and then we're going to bring back the rookie draft. And before we get started, I want to, what we're doing is, so what we thought would be the most fair, since, it's random order, whoever got the first pick, and then it's going to be snake. We thought, there's no real way to make it extra fair for the rookie draft. The guy that got the last pick in the Dynasty Startup, which was close to being me, we're going to give that person the first pick. That's what we wanted to do. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. But then I thought, man, if we did it as a regular linear draft, like most Dynasty Startups are, or most rookie drafts are, then it puts too much power on that first pick, because it's not like you got hosed being the 10th pick in a Dynasty Startup draft. So what we decided to do is we were going to go to random.org. We're going to put all the team names in, and we're just going to go completely random draw for the second round, completely random draw for the third round, and completely random draw for the fourth round. Let's make it super crazy, which is exactly how I like to do it. And so we're going to get into that real quick. So sorry for everybody that's got to listen to this who's not a part of it, but this is for all the people in the league.
Okay. This is the only way to make it legit. Otherwise, people wouldn't trust us anyways, right? Conniving bastards, all of them.
Well, they don't trust me at all. So
let's go with the reputation, all right?
All right, so I'm going to hit the button 5 times. That's what 5 times. I'm going to hit it 5 times, and then on the 5th hit, that's going to be the order. So for the second round, little bit of a drum roll. Okay, so there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. Now, should we on the 5th roll, or should the 5th one and then the next
the 5th roll?
Okay, so here it is.
The 5th roll.
Oh my gosh, your boy. This is me. Can you guys see this?
Oh my god.
Trash man truther. No, I hit the button 5 times. And it's backwards. You can't read it. It was backwards. It's me. It's me. It's the MVP of the league.
Oh god.
The trash man truther with the first pick. Black Ducks number 2. So you can just write like the lines underneath of them. And then so Black Ducks 2, Reach Around 3, Dead Snow 5, Ray King. Black Ducks 2, Reach Around 3, Dead Snow 4. Ray King 5, Flex Mike 6, Heat Sauce 7, Fees Nuts 8. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm reading
Yep.
these names off. Fees Nuts is one of them. Who is 8? Get Nuclear, which is you,
Yep.
9, and then Sully 10. Okay, that's the second round. So
That's
I get
justice. That's justice for Sully.
Yeah, well, not for me though, because I got the second pick in the first
Mm.
round and the first pick in the second round. So, all right, 5 times. So I'm going to do it again. Ready? Okay. There's
So while you're doing
one.
that, this is what our listeners can get used to is somehow you always. Do you ever watch the show Kenny versus Spenny?
No.
Do you ever see that show? No. Okay, look it up. It's a competition show. It's a Canadian show, but it's two comedians that basically they do random competitions. All right,
Yes. Look at that.
you are.
Second
See how this
pick.
is rigged?
This is not
So
rigged. Flex Mike gets the
trash.
first pick in
Okay.
the third. Trashman Truther, the second pick. You get the third pick. Heat Sauce, 4. Black Ducks, 5. Ray King, 6. Dead Snow, 7. Fees Nuts, 8. Reach Around, 9. And again, Stiffen the Solely from Houston with the
Oh
10th
man,
in the
Sully, poor
third.
guy.
All
I
right,
mean,
so give me
he's gonna walk away from this draft with Kyler though, so he's all right.
Yeah,
He'll be
right, because he
okay.
has 101. Okay, so
With the
3.
101, yeah.
Here's 4. Okay, the very last 4th round. We're only doing 4 rounds here. Hit it one more time. Boom. Black Ducks, 1. Sully gets 2. Ray King, 3. Get Nuclear, 4. Trashman Truther, 5. Dead Snow, 6. Reach Around, 7. Flex Mike, 8. Heat Sauce, 9. Fees Nuts, 10. And there you go.
All right.
For all the league listeners, that is our 4-round rookie draft order. I got the best, as always. I'm the best, number 1. Let's get into the draft.
All right.
How did you think your draft went? You were slotted in position
I was
4.
number
Was it?
4. I was
Number
slot
4.
number
So
4, yeah.
how did you feel it pre-draft with pick number 4 in a dynasty startup? How did you feel about having that slot?
Well, that one actually isn't so bad. I mean, if you're doing a redraft, an annual redraft sort of league, you really want one of those top 4 picks to get one of those top 4 running backs. It's a little bit different in dynasty because we know that typically a wide receiver will have a greater lifetime value than a running back. However, the the top 4 kind of fell similar to what a redraft would. It went Saquon, Zeke, Christian McCaffrey. So I was sitting there at 4, and I really, in my opinion, had a choice between 2 players. I was going to choose either Alvin Kamara or my boy, my namesake, Nuke Hopkins. So after much thought, I have Nuke in another couple dynasty leagues. So I figured I would diversify myself a little bit and go with Kamara this year. I think this year, similar to, I would say, how it used to be 4 or 5 years ago, where there's really been a focus on the running back position. The scarcity, and I'm sure you've done a few mocks, Matt, so far, the scarcity seems to dry up right around round 4. You're going with guys like Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram. Those are the guys that you're getting right around that 4th round. So the scarcity dries up. So with all those things taken in mind, and I mean, dynasty, you have these players for life, but we're in it to win it this year, which means if I can get one of those top 4 backs, especially a guy like Alvin Kamara who can catch balls out of the backfield in a PPR, that's who I had to go with.
Yeah, and I think what's kind of crazy is you had the complete steal of the draft, and we're gonna get through it. But this is a super flex tight end premium.
Yep.
And I really feel like there wasn't a lot of emphasis put on the tight end premium because in FFPC drafts, Travis Kelce is potentially a 1st-round pick. Now, I understand you got to add the dynasty aspect to it, so maybe he gets pushed down a little bit because he's a little older. But as you know, tight ends don't even produce until a little bit later in their career anyway. But you ended up getting Travis Kelce in the 3rd round.
I got Travis
Which
Kelce at 3.4, which was an absolute steal.
a huge steal.
Listen, okay, this is, oh man. I mean, the thing is that this is also super flex, right? So if you look at in the first, well, round 1, okay, actually, we should preface by saying this is a 10-team league. So a lot of our listeners probably playing 12 teams. So you're going to realize that I'd say pretty much every team is stacked, but it's a matter of how stacked you get, which also helped Travis Kelce fall to pick 3.4 to me. But in the first round, there was no major surprises, but there was no quarterback selected. But on the turn at 2.1, Patrick Mahomes went off the board, so he was the first one, right? So every time a quarterback goes off the board, it pushes those mid-second round guys up just a little bit further. So Patty Holmes at 2.1, Andrew Luck went at 2.5. Now, did you draft him or did you just end up trading for Andrew Luck after? I can't remember.
Okay, so here's what happened. Okay, so to get back to the draft a little bit, you went Alvin Kamara, Flex Mike went Odell Beckham over DeAndre Hopkins, which we're gonna bring,
is crazy,
which is nuts. So we're gonna bring him in here pretty soon to talk about his draft, because he is the one of the founding dynasty members of the Flex Network. He's coming in here soon. So we went Odell Beckham over DeAndre Hopkins. Then it went D-Hop. Then it went Devontae Adams. And then Black Ducks took Melvin Gordon, which I thought, I thought that was actually a pretty decent pick. Melvin Gordon, it was either that or David Johnson, I felt, next as far as running back. So he went Melvin Gordon. Now, here's my pick. I went Juju at 1-9. My problem was that I knew I was going to go Nick Chubb for my next pick. I love Nick Chubb. I love to get the young running back in a prolific offense, one that broke out last year. So I knew I was going to get Nick Chubb, but I don't know why I hit the button on Juju. I think if we listen from the last podcast, it's probably because I got offered Juju in the dynasty, didn't take the trade, and I just maybe was trying to get it back, because I went Juju in I got Juju in 2 of my dynasty startups since that point. And he's not, I'm not in love with the guy, but in a 2 QB or super flex tight end premium, I wanted Patrick Mahomes, and for some reason I hit Juju. I don't know. I wanted to go Patrick Mahomes, Nick Chubb, and I thought that would have been a phenomenal start. But I went Juju, which is fine. And then David Johnson came off the board, and then Patrick Mahomes. And so you're right. As the tight end premium starts to affect things, or QB starts to affect things, people fall down. Because I didn't get Patrick Mahomes, I got a little nervous. Okay, and I was like, well, damn, that didn't really work into my plans, and so I ended up going ahead and trading and picking up Andrew Luck. So I traded with Flex Mike. So I essentially went up a whole entire round, and I drafted Andrew Luck, and I just gave up my 3rd round pick. And I believe that was it. My 3rd round pick.
Well, it had to be more than a 3rd round. He wasn't just going to swap your 3rd round for your.
Right. Yeah, I forgot what it was, actually. I really do forget.
It was I think you gave him a 10th round or something, quite late, actually.
Oh, right. That's right.
I want to say it was around a 10th round pick.
Oh, that's right.
Which, let's look at players. Let's look at some players that went in the 10th round. So you got guys like Lamar Miller, Mark Andrews, Kyle Rudolph, Austin Hooper, Julian Edelman, he's older, right? So he'll typically fall. But Will Fuller, and there it is. So essentially, because Flex Mike got Dante Pettis with your pick, so you traded them. Your 3rd, so let's call it Mike Evans.
It was Mike Evans, Dante Pettis for Andrew Luck in a super flex.
Yep.
Good trade, bad trade. How do you?
I'd say that's
I don't know.
Close, truthfully,
that's okay.
Dante Pettis fell as far as he did, but because there was some nasty, that was a nasty round, man. I guess, well, Pettis was the start of the round because that was it's an even round, right? So it's going the reverse order. But it went Trubisky, Pettis, Fuller, Edelman, and then just like Royce Freeman. Actually, I'm quite high on. I was mad when he didn't fall to me, but then Kyle Rudolph went to your boy Flex Mike, which I'm not sure I like that pick very much, especially because right after that I went Austin Hooper, who gave me that all day. A Kyle Rudolph, man, with Irv Smith, who's your guy in Minnesota. Man, Rudolph's going to be a blocking tight end at best. He might get what, 4 or 5 touchdowns, 3, 4 receptions a game. That's not going to cut it.
I think
Even
this
for a
will
flex.
be Kyle Rudolph's farewell year.
I think so. I mean, he signed a 4-year deal, but I think they're only on the hook to pay for his salary for the next 2. So timing wise, Irv Smith, he gets a year to bulk up a little bit because he is right now, I think, right around 240, and you really want your tight ends to be at least at that 250 pounds mark to be a legitimate blocker and not just a move tight end. So I don't think it's unreasonable to think that a young rookie tight end can put on 10 pounds, but it's going to take time. So they get Rudolph, they can mold a guy like Irv Smith with that veteran presence, and then after 2 years, man, he gone. So give me
Yeah.
Austin Hooper all day, all day.
This has been a big conversation this year. Todd Gurley goes in a dynasty startup at 2.8 in a 10 team to the guy that had Christian McCaffrey. Now, if Todd Gurley's knee is okay and he comes back to even 8/10 of what Todd Gurley used to be,
Oh yeah,
a Christian McCaffrey Todd Gurley start
can
is
we actually
quite.
talk about reach arounds draft? And
No, and
let's look at this.
we haven't really got into any specific draft. I just wanted to finish out the second round.
Yeah,
So
sure.
you went Dalvin Cook after I got Andrew Luck
I did.
to pair with Alvin Kamara. So RB start, which is honestly phenomenal. I think we are only really have to start 2. And then we have a ton of flex positions. But I mean, at least securing 2 good young running backs. Now, you may have some injury concerns with Dalvin Cook, but I mean, in a super flex tight end premium, you swung back around and got Travis Kelce, essentially the highest rated tight end in the draft, and you got him and started the run on tight ends. But Russell Wilson, again, in super flex dynasty startup, goes 2.9, which is, I mean, it's potentially asinine. How the best quarterback in the league.
Get it?
You don't get that he went so high or so low?
I think so high on Russell Wilson. I mean, look at the guys who went after him. Baker went after him. Aaron Rodgers went after him. Deshaun Watson went after him. I mean, I would have chosen all those guys before Russell Wilson.
Really? Oh, interesting. So you don't like the running upside. You don't like the fact that he was literally the statistically best quarterback in the league last year and statistically the best quarterback league through the first 6 years of his career. Oh, you don't like that, huh?
I like quarterbacks that throw the ball more than, what does he have, around 350 career low in pass attempts. And then you've got an offensive coordinator who's saying that you're going to continue to run the ball. And I do like that they are adding weapons around him. But listen, let's not talk about Russell Wilson because I like Russell Wilson. I think he's got top 5 upside. He's been the number 1 quarterback, of course, in the year where it was statistically low for quarterbacks. But you look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, who is in a young ascending Cleveland offense, and the Cleveland offense is going to throw the ball. So that's going to run through Baker, and he can scramble when he needs to scramble. You've got Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he had a down year last year, but he still, again, could be the number 1 quarterback in the NFL if he's healthy. And apparently Marquez Valdez-Scantling is starting to stand out in camp. So he's got a legitimate number 2 receiver. He's got a bunch of number 3s, I think. Assuming that he can stay healthy, who's to say Aaron Rodgers doesn't put up another career year this year? Then you got Deshaun Watson, who I would argue is, from a throwing perspective, he's not as strong as Russell, but Deshaun's still running the ball. So I would wager that Deshaun's going to score probably 5-6 rushing touchdowns, probably 300-400 yards rushing, and he's got Will Fuller, Nuke Hopkins, and Kiki QT to throw the ball to. Oh, and Cahill Waring, who's the rookie tight end that they drafted this year, who is a pretty darn good pass catcher. So those are all guys that I would take before Russell Wilson.
Man, that's some true Russell Wilson shade, honestly.
You think so, eh?
That's a big shade because I don't feel that way. I mean, I would definitely take Russell Wilson before I would be taking Deshaun Watson. I just think that he's a better quarterback. I mean, and what if the Seahawks do, throw the ball 100 more times? So what happens then? How much more effective can he be statistically than Deshaun Watson if he's getting 100 more pass attempts?
But do you think you're going to do that? I mean, it's one thing to say that you're going to do that, but what's 100 pass attempts over 16 games? I mean, the math's going to be pretty terrible here, but it's probably what, like 7, 8 more attempts per
almost
game?
5 more. I think almost
Attempts per game?
5 more a game. Almost
So, I mean,
more.
that's actually not unreasonable to call, though. But then again, why can't Deshaun step up his game as well, right? I mean, ultimately, look, we're splitting hairs, right? But in my opinion, I don't think that Russell Wilson is the number 2 fantasy quarterback. Now, if we're talking real life quarterbacks, well, I mean, look at Tom Brady. He is the GOAT, and he's not being drafted as a top 12 quarterback right now. Does that mean that he's not a good quarterback? Of course not. So if I'm playing fantasy, which is what we're doing here, I'm drafting these guys with bigger upside than a guy like Russell Wilson, who is in primarily a running offense.
Yeah, that's that's great. That's awesome about Dynasty is you can find your guys and go get them, and you can say they're not your guys. It's all great, and it's all about who you like. And in the FFPC, when you talk about when you talk about ADPs, okay, when we're saying Russell Wilson is 2.9 in Superflex startup, right? Well, and to you, he's a 3.2, a 3.3, depending on how the draft goes, right? To me, he might be a 2.5. Go ahead.
I'd say probably mid the next round, right? Because you talked about, so I set up the run, but it went Travis Kelce, Baker, Kittle, Ertz, Rodgers. So we went the next 5 picks were either tight ends or quarterbacks. I could see him falling in that mid round, in which case he could have easily gotten, well, I guess he went Antonio Brown, which isn't horrible. That's another question that, I mean, Keenan Allen went after, Travis Kelce went after.
Yeah. No. That's it all. Oh, after. Yeah, you're right. So after
exactly.
Russell Wilson, it went directly Julio Jones, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Keenan Allen, and then Travis Kelce, Baker, Kittle, Ertz, Aaron Rodgers, Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette. So as far as starting a little run off there, we had a couple quarterbacks. Now, obviously, right in the next round went 3 good quarterbacks. So Watson, Wentz, Goff. We started to really get into it.
Who just joined? Somebody just joined. Who's that?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna work them in. The listeners don't know we joined. Let me work them in.
This is a surprise guest. You expect me not to react?
All right, I guess let's just bring them on. Let's just bring them on right now. So joining in on the podcast here live to talk about his draft is Flex Mike. Flex Mike, what's going on, brother? We haven't casted in a minute together. You had your last one with Jonathan Cason. Great podcast. So now let's talk to you about the beginning of this draft. I called you after first couple picks, and you told me you weren't really feeling your draft. How do you think your draft went after all is said and done?
Well, the reason I said that I wasn't feeling it is because I told you before I haven't really done the whole dynasty thing before. So I guess it may be a little insecurity on my part, not knowing what I was really stepping into. I've always been a guy that just kind of follows football super close. And so I've had the ability just to kind of know who's good and who isn't. And then obviously I'm a homer for like certain players. Like I drafted Mike Evans and Ray King that's in our leagues. We've been in like leagues together for like 3 or 4 years now. And he's like, dude, you draft Mike Evans every year in every league we've ever played in. And I'm like, I get out of church and the dude scored 20 points already. What do you want me to do? So
That's-
because you went and said a prayer.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, definitely.
So that's awesome. So okay, let's speak about Mike Evans real quick. So we were the ones that made the trade. I got Andrew Luck, you got Mike Evans and Dante Pettis. After the fact, seeing how your draft rolled, do you think that you got the better of that trade, or do you think I did?
You said you got who again?
Andrew Luck.
Oh man, I don't. Well, I would say that you won because I feel like quarterbacks can kind of create their own points where receivers are dependent on the quarterback to be successful. Example of that perfectly is Mike Evans, playing with Jameis Winston and Fitzmagic last year. They couldn't get their quarterback situation straight. So depending on what happens in Tampa Bay this year, you just don't know what that is going to be. And so I would say you won, and I'm a huge fan of Andrew Luck. So as you sit there with Andrew Luck, I have to say I'm a little bit jealous, but not too jealous because I did draft Baker Mayfield. So I think I'm doing all right.
Yes. So let's Shane, go ahead and ask him the question that we wanted to know as his. Yeah, you go ahead about the beginning of his draft here.
All right. I mean, okay. So I'm looking at your team here. You went. So I'm just gonna go back to your trade. I actually kind of like the trade. I think it was even, is what I said to Matt at the very start. Obviously, Andrew Luck's a prolific quarterback, but even in superflex leagues or 2 quarterback leagues, the quarterback position is relatively interchangeable. You look at a guy like Andrew Luck, you compare him to who I got a couple rounds later, a Cam Newton. Later on, Blackjack's got Jimmy Garoppolo in the 6th round. I think that a guy like Jimmy can probably put up a top 5 week at any given week throughout the season. So you look at taking a mid-second round pick, and essentially you're going to have a premium player, but on a day-to-day or a game-to-game basis, he might only be putting up 2 or 3 more points every game. So then you go and you look at a guy like Mike Evans, who, okay, I know he feels like he's been in the league forever, but he's only 25 years old. He's still the number 1 receiver in now a Bruce Arians offense. Jameis Winston is definitely a DGAF quarterback. He's going to throw the ball. Mike Evans, he used to be a guy that would catch the ball and drop. He would fall immediately. He had no yards after the catch in his game. He improved that last year. So you look at a guy who could probably put up between 1,300 to 1,400 yards, could easily get 10 to 11 touchdowns, could lead the league in touchdowns. I think he had a pretty good guy with Mike Evans. And then you go and you look at Dante Pettis, who, again, going back to that San Francisco offense, the guy can spread the ball down the field. And he's got a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, cross our fingers, of course. And I think that you've got a pretty good pair of receivers for a quarterback. And then what did you do? Because you wanted to get yourself a quarterback, you went and you got Baker, who I was just arguing I would have taken ahead of Russell Wilson. So I think you did pretty darn good.
Yeah, I heard you arguing the whole Russell Wilson thing, and I was like, oh man, come on, Shane. You're taking shots at my guy over here, but I know you weren't necessarily taking shots, but it's just funny because I think Russell Wilson will always kind of carry that that asterisk with him, which is like, oh, you're the number 1 rushing team in the NFL last year. You had the most attempts by far. Like second place was way off, and so I just think he'll always carry that with him. He's not going to pass the ball for, kind of like how a Drew Brees in New Orleans used to do, where they were like 95% pass, 5% run until they got Kamara and all that stuff. But not that he couldn't do that, but I would almost agree with you if I just didn't have the biggest man crush on Russell Wilson. I think that's the bigger issue. But I do love Baker Mayfield. I'm very excited for what he's going to bring to the table. And there's really no more excuses for Baker Mayfield if there was any to begin with. I'm like, you have some of the best receivers in the league on your team now. So the time is now for them to really start putting up some points, some crazy like video game numbers, I guess you would say.
What?
Absolutely. And
So Shane, I've been waiting for you to slay him over his Odell Beckham over DeAndre Hopkins.
that's what you're waiting for. Okay.
No, do it. I want
That's
to
fine.
hear
What?
it.
No, let me just ask. What the hell were you thinking?
I don't
Choosing
know.
Odell Beckham as the first receiver off the board. Please enlighten us.
I don't really have an answer for you. I told you I'm a rookie to this whole thing, so I was just kind of like, oh yeah, he's really good, so let me choose him. And to me, what has Deshaun Watson been? And I know you had just made some comments about
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson, but he plays behind a pretty bad offensive line.
Yes, he does.
And so that was, I think, in the time that we were drafting, I think that's what I was thinking is that offensive line is pretty bad. And that if Deshaun Watson had like Tom Brady or like Jared Goff type time, that Deshaun Watson is highly capable of getting him the ball. And even with that, DeAndre Hopkins had, a great season statistically. He's good in fantasy, all that stuff makes sense. But to me, there wasn't much of a difference there because Cleveland's offensive line last year was consistently ranked in the top 5 according to Pro Football Focus. And so to me, I was just like, well, they're only going to get better. And what has Houston done to improve their offensive line? So I just thought they were kind of like 1A and 1B. That's how I viewed it. Maybe you have a different opinion, but
Well,
that's
I
what I was
mean,
thinking.
getting better. They traded Zeitler, which is their guard, for Odell Beckham to the Giants. So statistically, they got worse. But Shane, he probably didn't really know that he was doing this. And and I don't know how all of us do feel about this, but like I actually really like to stack players in Dynasty, like, but not too many, right? So like I don't mind stacking running back, quarterback, running back, wide receiver. So I mean, yes, he went Odell, and 2 picks later, or 2 rounds later, not only did he draft Baker Mayfield, but he also picked up the Mike Evans and a Dante Pettis for essentially moving out of it. Then he went and drafted Baker Mayfield, who now he has the stack of Baker to Odell. And if you really enjoy that, and if you like that, that potentially could be lucrative. Shane, how do you feel about stacks in seasonal or in dynasty leagues?
Well, for me, to me, stacking's far more of a daily type play. I'm
But it
not
seems to
opposed.
work in daily fantasy. I mean, it seems
It
to
does
work
seem to
really
work.
well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the thing about daily fantasy, right, is because you need to put up the points. And so if you're stacking a quarterback and a wide receiver, then naturally there's going to be a point correlation between the two positions, right? So if the receiver has a big game, he puts up, I don't know, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Well, that's also 130 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns for the quarterback. So there's a pretty positive correlation between stacking those 2 players. So I would suggest that it's never a bad thing. Well, actually, it can be a bad thing. It can be risky in a risky offense, but in an offense like Cleveland, where they're going to be throwing the ball, where Odell is an absolute stud. And let me just say, so I kind of have gotten off Odell in the last little season and a half with the whole kicking the net antics, and it became a little bit too much for me. But before that, Odell was probably one of my favorite non-Patriots players that played in the league. He was exciting. He's fun. He is explosive, and he is an absolute stud. So I'm not saying that Odell is a bad pick. Frankly, roll the dice. Any one of these probably top 3 or 4 receivers can finish any given season as the #1 receiver. But if I'm dissecting it, I'm probably going to go for a guy like Odell or like Nuke Hopkins, simply because I think he's going to continue to maintain that huge target share within his offense. Lamar Miller is a serviceable back, but he's not explosive by any means. I mean, he's not as good as a Nick Chubb, who Nick Chubb can catch the ball, and Nick Chubb is going to get probably 17 to 20 touches a game running the ball. So you just look at the other mouths to feed, and yes, there is a guy like Will Fuller and Kiki QT who could take away targets from Hopkins, but Hopkins has had over 30% of the market share of the receiving of the receptions for the last, I want to say, 3 or 4 years on his team, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Let's
So if we're
let's
nitpicking the details,
yeah, and that's, I'm fine. Again, however you like to go with your draft. I think that if you feel Odell's a small, like, or an underplay compared to what was there, I felt like he definitely secured it up going with Baker, which I really
I
thought was
love
a
that.
good
I absolutely love that. I mean, that's going to be sick. Like that can win you any given week because it's a
any
head-to-head league,
given
right?
week.
So any given week you can win with that combination. I love
Yeah,
that.
oh, dude, imagine if there's 3 touchdowns to Odell and 150 or 300 yards Baker has and 3 touchdowns to Odell. I mean, you're sitting on a potential 100 burger, just in 2
It's
guys,
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
depending on. Now let's go ahead and rail Mike here. Hey Mike, in 2 starting RBs, who are your 2 starting RBs that you drafted?
I have Freeman. What's his name? Devontae Freeman. And I kind of listened to our friend Ray King, who's a Packers fan, and I said, "Hey, give me the scoop because I want to know about Aaron Jones." And maybe because he's such a good friend of mine, maybe I just took his word for it a little too much, and I ended up drafting Aaron Jones. So I'm really on there. I'm really kind of banking on the upside of Aaron Jones, and I'm hoping that that's a real thing. So.
That is ridiculous.
What do you
Okay?
What do
That
you
is
want me to do?
ridiculous.
I don't remember who was on the board at the time, so
Hey,
maybe I
can I
maybe I
Okay, well,
hey
passed on someone. I don't know.
lucky I have it right in front of us. That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so actually, for the record, I don't mind the Aaron Jones pick. If he plays out, I think Aaron Jones can absolutely be a top 10 back in the league this season, without a doubt. Players that went after him, though, Damian Williams, uh, he's kind of a controversial pick. I mean, the fact that he fell to 5.7 in my book's pretty late. But I mean, if he does end up being the starter, which is all indications are Andy Reid is saying that he's going to be the starter, then Andy Reid running backs put up top 10 running back numbers every single season almost. So that's not horrible. After that was Philip Lindsay. And then a guy that I love that I was kind of cursing when you took him, Matt, was Marlon Mack. He fell to you at 5.9. So to
Yes.
me, that was the play.
Yes, it should have been the play. Now, even
Yeah.
further, the next 2 guys, in my opinion, that went off the board as RBs should have been the 2 guys that went off the board. It should have gone first Marlon Mack and then these 2 guys. So go ahead and say it, Shane.
So carry on. And to me, Darius Geis in the 6th
Yes.
round.
And so Darius Geis is probably the better pick of all of those picks, as far as someone who's young and it's dynasty, and you wouldn't have been, you would not have had any problems drafting Darius Geis over Aaron Jones. Wouldn't have had any
Yeah,
problems.
Oh, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
isn't he coming off of a ACL tear from last season?
Yeah, so did Adrian Peterson.
Well, Adrian Peterson is not the model that these NFL running backs need to follow. Adrian Peterson is a once in like a generation, or maybe even once in a lifetime type running back. And so to think that you could tear your ACL and MCL completely and have the return that Adrian Peterson had is just it's asinine to a point. And so that was the only thing that scared me away from Geis because I really like him. It's just I just don't know what that is going to be. And
You're
I guess you
right.
could
So
say
the,
this. I guess you could say the same thing with my thoughts on Aaron Jones. I don't know what that's going to be either, but I'm kind of banking on the upside.
yeah, so what your real problem was that you waited so late to draft your RB1.
Yeah, that is definitely my problem.
Well,
Look, I would
you
say,
so
sorry, Matt, I would say that this is kind of that gray area of running back, though, right? Where every one of these running backs that have gone off the board in this rounds 5 and 6, they all have potential to be number 1 backs. They're all the lead backs in their offense. They're all probably going to get between 15 to 20 carries in their offense, other than maybe Philip Lindsay, but let's just put him aside. And really, at that point, it's just who do you like? I mean, really, like, would you be surprised if Aaron Jones outscored Darius Geis this year, or outscored Damian Williams, or Carry-On, who's in Matt Patricia's just clown show offense?
Personally,
any
I
one of
would.
these guys,
I would be
you'd
surprised.
be surprised.
I'd be surprised.
What makes you surprised?
I just think that those other guys are better, and they're in better offenses. And I mean, the Lions are trying to be a Seattle Seahawk offense. They're trying to turn to a running offense. And if Kerryon Johnson gets the ball and he can stay healthy, then I would think that he would smash on Aaron Jones's numbers. I just don't think that offense, just like we were talking about Drew Brees passing 95% of the time. I mean, yeah, the Green Bay Packers would love to be able to run the ball, but that's not what they're trying to do. I mean, that's just not how their offense is going to work. They're not successful when they run the ball. They're successful when they put the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands, which is why they pay him the money that they do. Damian Williams is in the most prolific offense of the entire NFL. So get him the ball at any chance. I mean, they run so many plays. Marlon Mack, again, in one of the most prolific offenses, if he can run, block, catch, anything, stay on the field all 3 downs. I mean, I would be surprised if Aaron Jones outscores either of those guys. So I do not have the same sentiment, but I am just digging into you a little bit more. You did, so we'll go ahead with his entire draft. So he got Odell, Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs. That's a great start. I mean, that's a phenomenal start. This is kind of where it falters. Aaron Jones, Devontae Freeman, but he did in between those picks pick up DJ Moore, which is I think he's going to break out this year. So you're 3. Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing. This whole Devontae Freeman thing is 100% Shane's fault.
My fault.
Yes, and the reason I say that is because I was listening to the last cast that you guys did, and you had so many great things to say about Devontae Freeman. I was already a fan, but it really threw me over the top. And I was like, you know what? This guy knows more about fantasy football than I do. So, like, let's do it. I'm just going to draft this guy and just see what happens.
I love Devontae Freeman. I think, honestly, and I don't know, I drafted Devontae Freeman in his rookie season, and I think he went off in about week 5 or 6 that season. I got hit by the bye weeks the week before, and I had to make a tough choice. And I had this rookie sitting on my bench, and I ended up dropping Devontae Freeman. And then he went off. He got picked up. I didn't get him, and he went off that season. And then I think the following year he came, and he was a top 3?
Wait.
Oh.
You smell that?
What's that smell, Matt?
That's a Devontae Freeman truther right here.
I love Devontae Freeman. I absolutely love him. No, but okay, listen. This is my thoughts on him, though. You have to be pragmatic when it comes to Dynasty, especially. And I had Freeman in another league that I ended up trading him away because he is still 27 years old. And when you look at other guys that are 27, I think Lev Bell's 27. So there are other prolific running backs that are at that age group. But what worries me about Freeman is not this season. It's next season. It's 2 seasons down the road. And the issue is that he hasn't just had body injuries. He's also had concussions. And those are the sort of things where if he gets hit one time, and I know this is football, so that can happen to anybody, but we do know that studies do show that you are more prone to concussions after you've had previous concussions. And he missed the entire last season. So these are things that kind of put up just flags in my head in terms of the decision-making for a player long-term. But I mean, let me just say this, you got him at 7.5. So it's not like you drafted him in round 3 for your number 1 running back. Devontae Freeman in another league that I'm in with Matt is actually my number 1 running back. So I'm pretty stoked about this season, but I'm a little bit worried about him in future years. But then following him, Derrick Henry went right after that. Kareem Hunt, who isn't going to play for at least 10 games. Matty took Rashad Penny, and then following that was Tariq Cohen. So I would suggest that even though when we look at Devontae Freeman in a vacuum, yes, it's probably not going to be the best long-term dynasty asset, but he's the kind of guy who can win you the league this year. And then when you compare him to what else was left on the board, I mean, I would rather ride and die with Freeman than I would with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, but not Penny. Especially again, the real
Well,
problem is that he waited so long because Devontae Freeman is the pick you would have to make because otherwise you didn't have a second RB like that actually scores points. So if you had drafted a tiny bit better, you should have been able to draft a Penny in that slot as your RB3. And if he breaks out this year, then you could have slipped him right into that RB2 and not had to worry about Freeman. But now you might get a scenario where this could be Devontae Freeman's last year, like being good at football at all. And same thing with Aaron Jones. I mean, Aaron Jones could be one injury away from this being it. Devontae Freeman is small, was undersized coming in the league. He's still undersized. He's old, and he has injury problems. So you legit might catch yourself in week 6 of this year not having an RB1 and not having an RB1 in the future. And so meanwhile, I will go ahead and sell you Rashad Penny for your firstborn daughter.
Yeah, exactly. So
And
no. This was Matt was just gonna preface it by saying that, oh yeah, in about 2 weeks you're gonna get a trade offer for Devonta Freeman, because Matt has a knack for talking about how terrible players are on your team and just how amazing players are on his team. So be careful with that.
He does that. He does that. And Matt, are you offering that player for my firstborn daughter? Because I don't know if Shane has a daughter or not.
yeah, it was for you.
I do have a daughter, so it's all you.
Okay. Well, yeah, my daughter crapped her pants in public the other day, so I might just hand her over to you.
Okay, well, you ain't getting Penny then. Okay, pennies on the dollar. Pennies. Okay. Honestly, Flex Mike, your draft was good near the end, so you actually did pretty good. You kind of wrapped it up. You went with a Kiki QT, Dede Westbrook, Traquan Smith, which is all good picks to kind of fill the backside of your wide receiver class. Your QB2, although Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Stafford, Mariota, you don't know. But you need to make a small bit of improvement. I would say to try to get in to the first round again in the rookie draft. Or again, we're doing this without rookies. So if I might have been, you, or if I'm you right now, I might be making a real hard play for the number 2 pick in the rookie draft this year. And you might be able to go out there and pick up some names that I don't want to drop here in case the listeners are listening, and I just don't want to make your team
Matt.
What?
Mike, didn't we just discuss this? You know who has the number 2 overall pick this year? Oh yeah, that's right. It's Matt.
It's me.
Convenient how he's trying to sell the number 2 pick. Brilliant.
Yeah. See, Matt wants to throw in these like little comments like I wasn't watching this before I came on. Like he's got some government secret or plot. Like, you don't think I watch everything that pops up on Flex Network? You're crazy. Like, I didn't hear you say that. Like, I watched you with your phone putting it up to the camera to show the listeners that the whole thing wasn't rigged and that you did it random, but somehow you ended up with the first pick. So
in the second round. Yeah, the first round's already was predetermined, but you saw that.
Have the second pick. You just have the second pick.
I have the second pick in the first round, and then I have the first pick in the second round. So first of all, everybody, you know who's coming to Papa at a couple of those picks, okay? which is great, because what I would like you two to do right now is analyze my draft and tell me it wasn't the best.
Well, hold on. I want to ask one question real quick before we jump into that. I guess Shane, you could jump on it, but I want to know. I drafted tight end wise because we're talking tight end premium, correct? So I want to know your thoughts on who did I get here? Okay, Kyle Rudolph.
We already talked about Kyle Rudolph.
We're,
Oh, you did. Okay, my bad.
hope-
My bad.
Yeah, it was probably for the best that you weren't home for that.
Okay. um,
Sorry.
And then, do you see any upside out of the tight end out of Baltimore, Hayden Hurst?
Well, you know what? I think I don't think it's going to be Hurst. I think that's going to be the lead.
Mark Andrews, the
tight
guy
end
that
lead.
I just
Yeah,
picked up, the
I
UDFA.
know.
A
Which we got to talk about
UDFA.
that, Beck.
We don't have to talk
Yeah.
about it.
No, we won't talk about that.
Hey,
I
listen,
love
I
Mark
got the
Andrews.
guy if you want him for your first round pick.
No, you're crazy. I don't even care that much. I got Eric Ebron, and he's the real tight end. So that's all I
Yeah,
care about.
that's true. Eric Ebron's going to be okay this year.
Has Andrew Luck throwing to him. He's gonna probably have the best career or best year of his career. So
Well, that
we'll
was
see.
last year.
Well, he's gonna do
Yes.
better this year.
He had a hell of a season.
Okay, Shane, go ahead and tell him how good was his tight end draft.
Well, okay, Eric Ebron, yeah, I like Eric Ebron. I mean, he's obviously got the upside for the touchdowns. He worries me just a little bit because of Jack Doyle being back. I think Jack Doyle is going to be ready for. I think he's going to be ready for training camp. If not, he'll definitely be ready for the start of the season. And we know that he really is Andrew Luck's safety blanket. So in a PPR tight end premium league, I worry. Well, I wouldn't say I worry necessarily, but you look at a guy like Jack Doyle, he is going to take some receptions away from Eric Ebron, or from Eric Ebron, excuse me. And so I could see Ebron's lines being something like 3 receptions, 13 yards, and a touchdown. So you've got your touchdown upside, which is obviously valuable. But when you add in that 1.5 per reception for a tight end, it becomes a little bit less valuable on just an overall percentage basis, 4 points. And then
So-
Kyle Rudolph, I mean, I don't know. My worry about Kyle Rudolph is that they did just draft Irv Smith, and Irv Smith is a catching tight end. He's a move tight end, and I expect that he's going to play the role as a third ball catcher in that offense. And so that's going to relegate, even in 2 tight end sets, Kyle Rudolph more into a blocking type role and not necessarily catching the ball. Now he will have touchdown upside. The problem is that you're not going to know when to start him. So he can put up a 2-burger for you, or he can put up maybe 12 points for you, but you're not going to know when those are.
Well,
That's what I worry about.
Mike's fucking. This is his thing, man. He will secure up this position later in the draft, and he's gonna go after Irv Smith. And so now he'll have the tight end position locked up in Minnesota, or I mean, Flex Mike, you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have the 6th pick in the first round. That screams Hawkinson.
Hawkinson, he might be there. The thing is that Dwayne Haskins and Kyler Murray are going to go top 2 since it's super flex. Maybe not top 2, but they're going to be in our first round for sure, which could potentially push some pretty decent upside guys like a Miles Sanders, who fell to you, I believe, at 1.6 in our other draft. So there is going to be some potential upside. Now, I don't know if Miles Sanders will be available because he's going to go at number 2 to you, but you could get a guy like Paris Campbell. Maybe N'Keal Harry falls. So
He doesn't need wide
pretty.
receiver though. He's pretty stacked at wide receiver long term. So the play for
Yeah,
him
but
is
Matt-
going to be a tight end, a QB, or a running back. I'm fairly confident in this.
So here's my question with tight ends, right, Shane? So you're a Patriots fan. So
Yes.
the Patriots ran the Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez, 2 tight end, both pretty good when they were both in their prime, kind of doing their thing.
Yeah.
So
Before the murder.
Yeah, obviously before
Pre-murder.
the murder.
Was it pre-murder or was he just not caught yet? I'm
Not
sure
caught yet.
about
I'm
that.
willing to say it's
Ooh,
not
good.
caught yet.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure about that. Anyways,
He had the
that's a little
40
dark. We'll talk about that.
He had the 45 tucked in the back of his football pants. Not a big deal. Anyway, so ever since then we haven't really seen, NFL teams go with that 2 tight end set. And so, like, as we talk about, like, oh, Kyle Rudolph he could lose some targets and catches and stuff to this other guy. And then you talk the same thing in Baltimore. Well, the other guy is probably going to start over, Hayden Hurst. So what is stopping teams from going to that 2 tight end set?
Nothing is stopping the teams. What's stopping the teams is just that the teams already are underproductive to the tight end anyway. I mean, a lot of people don't even know who the starting tight end is in Baltimore. And so, honestly, it's more of the fact that if the team's not making plays or drawing plays up for the tight end in general, why are all of a sudden they're going to go to a 2 tight end set and then try to feature both of them to the point where they're statistically viable to start on your fantasy team? What do you think, Shane?
Well, I think if it first and foremost comes down to the personnel. I mean, if you've got 2 legitimate tight ends that you can play, you're going to play them. I mean, I look at OJ Howard and Cameron Braid. Both guys were on the field at the same time. Cameron Braid was the touchdown guy, but the reason that OJ Howard was such a beast and he was on early in his career was because he was just a monster at blocking. But he can also catch the ball, and frankly, I love OJ Howard, and I hate Matt for having him. But then you also look at a couple. Go ahead.
That's
Matt.
a lead. That's a lead into just
Not
talking
quite.
about how great I am.
I'll get there, though. I'll get there. Okay. So then you also look at, wasn't it a couple of years ago with Dwayne Allen and Jack Doyle, where they're both tight ends were productive in that offense. So I don't think. Oh, and then we started to see glimpses of it last year, but this year the Philadelphia offense with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, you're going to see 2 tight end sets all the time because they want to get playmakers on the field. So I'm not saying that Kyle Rudolph is not going to have an opportunity, but I think that if 2 tight ends are on the field, the ball is going to be going to Irv, not to Kyle.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Knowledge dropped. Take it. Draft.
But you know what,
good.
Mike? I'm looking here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're at the 2.6 in round 2. That's right at that sweet spot for one of those mid-range tight ends, like maybe a Noah Fant Falls. Maybe Irv Smith is there. Maybe Jay Sternberger with Green Bay is going to be there. So there is an opportunity for you to take more of an upside type player. Maybe you do want to take Hawkinson, but maybe you can go for a Paris Campbell, or maybe a David Montgomery falls to you at 1.6, and then you can swing around next round and you can get one of those secondary tight ends where they might not be super productive either early in the season, or maybe it's going to take a season to mature, but they've got the opportunity to become that next wave of amazing starting tight ends.
Let's talk about me.
You could be in good shape. All right, Matt. See, I just like to toy with you a little bit. I like to keep putting off. But let's talk about. Okay, Mike, what do you think about Matt's draft?
Should somebody just tell the good people out there about my draft?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Shane. You have the list right in front of you. So.
All right. Okay, Matt, can you just cover your ears for a second? I don't want you to hear this.
Yes.
Right. Okay, your ears are covered? Okay, good.
Yes, they're covered.
I have to say, I actually love Matt's draft.
Oh, God.
I would say that, I mean, I'm biased. I think I had the best draft. But if a close second, maybe not. There's a top 3. But within a top 3, I would say Matt's draft was top 3 for sure. So let me just read off. This is in no particular order of his actual draft, but we're just going to start off. So his starting lineup, based on what's in there right now, he's got a quarterback. He's got Andrew Luck, and then he's got the guy who apparently he doesn't like in his Superflex, Deshaun Watson, who I love.
No, wait, forgot. I traded, or Deshaun Watson and Jared Goff went in a trade. Did I not change that?
No, I don't see it here.
Yeah, it's there. If you look at my team, it's changed. So it's not Deshaun Watson, it's Jared Goff.
Okay, my bad. All right, so you got Jared Goff. That's all right. Yeah, I'm looking at just the draft, which is what it popped up. But
right.
All right, so I mean, Jared Goff still. I mean, he's in a prolific offense. Deshaun McVay offense. He's going to put up points. He was number 8 last season. He's going to be a top 10 quarterback. That's not much of. I mean, I prefer Deshaun obviously, but Jared Goff, he's not going to have a bad year at all, and he's young.
Well, so what was the trade? I forget what the trade was. It was someone really wanted Deshaun, and they're like, hey, will you trade him? And I said, sure. So it was Deshaun, and then I must have even traded the pick I got for him. But I know that I ended up with essentially Hunter Henry, Rashad Penny,
Ugh.
and Goff for Deshaun Watson. So again, I am the master sensei.
Oh God. All right. We're just gonna
Continue.
keep going here. All right. So starting running back, we've got Nick Chubb, who I do love, but we didn't actually get to this. But Joe Mixon was still available, and I would have definitely chosen Joe Mixon simply for opportunity. I think that Nick Chubb is an absolute stud, but I think that they're going to be throwing the ball a little bit more. And splitting hairs, I would have gone Mixon. Marlon Mack, who we already talked about, I love. The only thing about Mack that could be worrying is the fact that they don't want him necessarily to be the pass catching running back. So there is some potential that he might not always be a third down back, but I still think that he's explosive. I mean, you saw what he did in the playoffs when they needed him, and he was an absolute stud. So I love Marlon Mack, especially as your RB2. And then at wide receiver, you got Juju, who is an absolute beast. We've already talked about him. At 7.9, you got Christian Kirk, who I think that as your wide receiver 2, he has that, I think, ability to be a 2, but he's not. I don't think he's going to be quite there yet, simply because of target share within the offense. But he could be there. And then you look at your next pick was Tyler Lockett.
Murray, Kyler Murray, Christian Kirk.
Kyler's a rookie.
So was Russell Wilson. Lit the world on fire.
Hey, I love Kirk, man. I'm not.
So was Baker Mayfield.
They all got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. Keep going.
But then I mean, you could really just swap Tyler Lockett for your 2, because you got Tyler Lockett on the turn, and I mean he is the number 1 in Seattle. We saw what he did last year. He was the most efficient wide receiver last year in the league, and I mean I think he is naturally going to regress simply because I don't think he's one of the most efficient receivers in the league in history 2 years in a row, but he's still going to be the number 1 offense. And going back to the fact that yes, Seattle's not going to throw the ball as often. Tyler Lockett's going to be the first option when they do throw that ball. And Russell Wilson is extremely accurate. So I think that Tyler Lockett has the opportunity to be a wide receiver 1 any given week. So that's great. And then moving on to your tight end, you've got OJ Howard. And then in the flex, you've got Hunter Henry, who you got in that trade. And I mean, let's go back to the fact here. It's a friggin' premium. And Hunter Henry, he's one of these funny guys where he has had so much potential. He's been talked about now for, I want to say, 3 seasons by fantasy football players. And it's finally the time. Finally this year, is he going to be able to break out? There's no Antonio Gates. He's gone. He's retired forever. Hopefully. And then in your other flex, you've got Rashad Penny, who we've already talked about. He's got great upside. I think that by midseason, he'll probably usurp Carson as the number 1 running back in that offense. You got Curtis Samuel, who is I think that he's one of the most under the radar players right now. I freaking love Curtis Samuel. And then again, Deshaun Watson. So I think you've got a pretty stacked starting lineup.
I don't have Deshaun Watson.
Oh, I keep going back. Yeah, Jared Goff. I'm a simple-minded person, Matt. I look at it, and that's all I know.
Yes, what you seem to be missing is the key point that I have OJ Howard and Hunter Henry, which is a consensus top 5, 2 of the consensus top 5. I would honestly say that it goes Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle, Henry, and Howard as your top 5 dynasty tight ends. I don't know who else would honestly go in there.
I think Evan Ingram's in the conversation.
Oh, yeah, Evan, he's in the conversation, sure, but I'm not going to take him. I don't personally like him. But either way, tight end premium, I got 2. I got 2 of the top 5 guys on my board, which is great. I do have Deshaun Hamilton, which if we find out that they change the offense around or he starts to come out as the real true X, because we know Emmanuel Sanders isn't an X receiver. He's more of a slot guy, honestly, but he's still good. So I got him. Dion Lewis, Taylor Gabriel, Delaney Walker, and Jonnu Smith. So just in case one of those guys ends up great. And then Dallas Goedert. So if Ertz goes down, I've got about 5 great tight ends on my team. that are going to just smash in tight end premium.
And then you got
I
Mark
would like
Andrews as well, who I think he's got upside.
to maybe
You got
top
the Baltimore.
10.
Yeah, well, you didn't draft him. You didn't. Well, Mark Andrews, you didn't draft him, but you just picked him up off waivers. And he's got opportunity
UDFA.
to be a top 10. Yeah, well, UDFA. You didn't draft him, but you have him.
I think Tyler Lockett was a wide receiver 1 in fantasy last year.
I think he might have finished right around the 12, I think.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I got him as my third wide receiver, though a top 12 asset from last year. And Flex Mike is just crying over there. Are you sobbing in tears right now?
Yes, 100%.
Sobbing in tears. In tears.
Dude,
All right, Shane.
I love Delaney Walker, by the way. It seems, I don't know how old that dude is, but I feel like he's been in the NFL for like 40 plus years. And there's just something about him when he's healthy. He's just kind of like a go-to guy. And so he's,
Hey, do you know who can get Delaney Walker for a second round pick?
yeah, probably
You.
me. I'm not going to get him though.
You can have him for a second round pick if you would like.
I could have a lot of things for a second round pick.
Delaney Walker's
LOL.
34 years old, Matt, by the way.
Hey, don't tell Flex Mike that, okay? This is our trade business. You get out of this trade talk right here. This is not. This has nothing to do with you. Okay, so let's look over Shane's draft to end this cast. I would love to talk about a lot of other people's drafts, but I flat out don't think that anyone came close to you or I, Shane. And that's no, no offense to anybody else, but they definitely have felt overreached in a lot of areas. There's a couple other good teams, and we'll have to find out. I mean, David Johnson, Patrick Mahomes, Leonard Fournette, Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Tyreek Hill. I mean, that's a decent team
Look
as
at
well.
Reach Around's team, Matt. Look at Reach Around's team. That
Reach
team is
Around.
sick.
Reach Around, Christian McCaffrey, Todd Gurley, Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, Sonny Michel, Robert Woods, Drew Brees, David Njoku, and then pretty much the draft falls off right there.
You know what
Pretty
his
good.
problem was, though? He went, man, and this is what sucks, because you look at his starting lineup, and, when you're going to battle with Christian McCaffrey and Todd Gurley, and then Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, and Robert Woods, like, you're pretty excited. But then his first quarterback at 7.3 was Drew Brees. And in a super flex league, I'm scrolling down. I don't see any new running or quarterbacks drafted, which means he's got one quarterback in a super flex league. And that could be his undoing.
Are you eating cereal, Flex Mike?
Dude, no, my wife
Delicious.
just walked in here and brought me, my wife just brought me 3 cinnamon rolls. What do you think about that? It's
God.
still Father's Day over here, dude.
Happy Father's Day.
Fuck.
Yeah, for
damn.
real.
See, that's the life. We were just talking
Yeah,
about how we didn't get breakfast in bed, and look at this. He's on the cast, and out of nowhere, like a fucking magician, he winds up with 3 cinnamon rolls.
Hey, you know what? My wife is always on her A game. She kills it. But anyway.
I respect that.
Nice.
I love that.
Okay, so Shane.
Yes.
You
I'm
went
deflecting.
went the round of late QB. Okay.
I did, yeah.
I feel like you did really good with it. You got guys that are essentially proven. Dak was your number 2 QB. As much as I hate Dak and I don't think he's worth the money, he essentially is a more an extra value Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott together have a Flex Mike is.
She's shaking his head.
I'm having a seizure right now. I cannot stand him, but I understand why people like him. I personally do not like him. But
He gives you the same rushing like upside as Russell Wilson, and you literally got him 12, 24, 48 and some change picks after. And so I thought that was a great pick. I was kind of hoping he would fall to me, honestly. He did not fall to me at the next time I picked, which was going to be a little while, but I thought maybe he could fall. And so I would agree that Cam Newton, Dak Prescott as your two starting QBs in a super flex with a Kirky Cousins going as your backup, who, although you might not, love Kirk Cousins, the guy's a gamer, and the guy on a redraft super flex league, you love to have the guy. I mean, he does produce. He has two of the best wide receivers in the game, one of the best running backs in the game, one of the better young tight ends in the game now, and a efficient inline blocking tight end that can catch passes. I mean, that offense is great.
He's a great blocking tight end, Matt. A great blocking tight end.
Yes.
Sorry, Mike.
That was another little rub squeeze on Flex Mike. Sorry, bud. That was on you. But to keep going, you have Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook. And to shore up that position, a Darius Juice. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, two good young running backs. Your wide receivers are Brandon Cooks, Allen Robinson, Corey Davis. Now, as much as Corey Davis gets a lot of flack, he still caught, 70 balls for 700 plus yards and some touchdowns last year. He's good. He's still young, and he's got a lot to go. Allen Robinson is, by every sense of the term, a number one wide receiver. Maybe not in Dynasty, but for the team and for what that team needs to do, he is very Dez Bryant for that team. He's a go-to guy for Mitch Trubisky, and we saw that last year. When Mitch Trubisky needed to be bailed out, there was only one guy he was looking for, and that's Allen Robinson.
Well, and with Robinson, he's also a year removed now from that injury, or I guess almost 2 years now since he had that injury. So I think he's got pretty good upside. I worry about the Chicago offense taking a step back a little bit, but from a number 2 at 8.7, when I was pretty much fading receiver, which was not the plan. Let me just put it out there. My plan was not to fade receiver coming into this draft, but it's a good lesson where you have to take value when they fall to you, because I thought for sure. I think this is where you're getting to, Matt. I thought for sure Travis Kelce would be off the board by my pick in round 3, which was pick 3.4. So what's that? Pick 34, basically. And I guess that's 24. My math isn't great. But so pick 24, Kelce in a tight end premium league fell to me. And so I couldn't pass up going for receiver. I had to get Kelce, who in a premium could probably finish, if you're looking at wide receivers and tight ends, top 5 wide receiver, top 5 receiver in a premium league.
Oh,
you can't pass that up.
No, you can't pass it up. I'm not a big Austin Hooper guy, but you got him as your second tight end. Then, honestly, at this point, your draft kind of chokes, and it chokes real hard. I mean,
right,
you're in your starting lineup right now is Albert Wilson. Okay. And then, who else do you have? Malcolm Brown, Rod Smith, Chase Edmonds, Jalen Samuels. None of those guys are playing much. You're not going to be able to start those guys. Zay Jones, can't start him. Ricky Seals-Jones, probably can't start him. Trey Quinn, you probably might be able to start him. Mike Gesicki, you'll likely be able to start him. Ian Thomas probably won't win the tight end job over a guy who took essentially another year off, as old as he is, still can't usurp him in Cam Newton's offense, and they begged him to stay on the team because Ian Thomas just can't hash it. But you do have James Washington, who is okay. Who knows? And then you got Demarcus Robinson.
Matt,
honestly,
it's all about the anatomy of how you want to put your bench together. right? I mean,
Well,
the way
right
that
now
my
you got
draft
a
kind of
bunch of
played out,
guys that don't. You got a bunch of guys right now that aren't doing anything for you. You're not going to start anybody on
they're
your bench.
not. But listen, in fantasy, are you in it to win it, or are you in it to finish fifth? I'm in it to win it every time, right? So I look at my starters, and I got a lot of sizzle at the top. I waited on quarterback, but man, I've got Cam Newton and either my choice between Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins. And
That's
then
good.
Austin Hooper catches balls in a prolific Atlanta offense, and he's going to get 1.5 points for every time he catches that ball. So I think for an upside guy in your flex as your second flex option isn't too bad with an Austin Hooper. We talk about Jalen Samuels. Okay, yes, James Conner is the apparent starter, but couldn't this be the year where they see a guy like Jalen Samuels and they see his talent and they want to get him on the field? Because every time he touched the ball, he was electric last year. Ian Thomas, he is only 23 years old. I think that he is going to absolutely become the number one tight end after a little bit of a little bit of coaching, a little bit of growth. He's only 23 years old, but they like to throw the ball to the tight end. So maybe he has to wait one more year. But that's the beauty of Dynasty. I'm going to have him for his entire career, and he's only 23. Mike Gesicki, who let's be honest, he absolutely shot the bed last year. But same thing, he's only 23 years old. He's uber athletic. I got him in round 15.
He was a steal.
15.4.
I wanted him the second you drafted him. I was like, okay, but I mean, okay. Besides him, I who I love, and Trey Quinn, who I love, and James Washington, who I like a lot. Outside of that, you got a bunch of nothing on your bench.
Well, but you're looking at rounds 19, 20, 21. So I got Albert Wilson, who could be the number one receiver in Miami. I've got Zay Jones, who could be the number one wide receiver in a decent Buffalo offense, potentially decent. I've got Chase Edmonds, who's the only guy behind DJ. DJ gets hurt. I've got Malcolm Brown, who everybody is anointing Darrell Henderson as the lock handcuff for Todd Gurley, but at pick 21, I'm going to play for that upside. I've got Rod Smith, who is also an athletic freak, who, of course, fortunate for the fantasy community, he went from one stud running back with Zeke to now being behind the stud Saquon Barkley. But if Barkley goes down, that offense is geared towards the running back position. You don't think they're going out there right now and planning plays for how are we going to get Saquon Barkley the ball? What if Saquon gets hurt? Do you think they're just going to change their entire offense? Or are they going to look at an athletic guy like Rod Smith, who they got in free agency, and give him the opportunity? And then as my final pick in round 23, I got Demarcus Robinson, who could potentially be the number 2 wide receiver in an electric Kansas City offense. Sammy Watkins is very injury prone. They have Mecole Hardman, who they drafted, but he's still a rookie and he's raw, so he's going to take a little bit of time to get in there. So I'm looking at the end of my draft, and I didn't draft guys who, they might be able to get me 5-6 points a week. No, I drafted guys who, if there's the right opportunity, because frankly, that's what you have to look for in fantasy football. To win your league with your bench players, you have to look for opportunity. And these guys, if the chips fall correctly, could have an opportunity to be a starting running back in the league. And that's how you win your league.
Flex Mike just texted me saying his draft sucks. I hated his draft.
Yeah,
well,
that sounds like something I would say.
Anyway, I thought you had a very good draft, Shane. I'm excited to see this year. It's our listener league. I'm excited for the rookie draft. We have to wrap this up. Too much shit's gone on. It's so much fun to talk to you guys. We've literally pretty much been here for an hour and a half, and it doesn't feel like it. So this is fun.
We can go all night, baby.
I can. Yeah, this is fun. So,
yeah.
Flex Mike, sign off, brother. How can people find you?
Yeah, so we're all over Facebook. Are you talking about us or just me?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, I'll just stick to the Flex Network stuff here. Flex Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Follow, subscribe, all that stuff. But
5 stars, only 5 stars.
Yeah, only 5-star reviews. And I know Matt's out of here, Shane, but I just want to say one thing. How
Let's beat his
about
ass.
those? How about those Toronto Raptors?
Oh, baby. Those Raptors, baby.
He might jump back on just to say something. But
I'm here still.
Oh, okay,
but-
yeah, he's still mad. Okay,
Oh, baby.
he just had to take this heat real quick because all these years he's been running his mouth about Golden State, and Golden State never gets challenged. But I just had to say that real quick. But as for me,
Matt,
I'm out.
Peace out, Mike. Matt, I'm just gonna say one thing about it. Listen, a lot of people are gonna have an asterisk next to the Raptors win because they didn't have two of the top players, but a win's a win, baby. Banners fly for life. You can find me on Twitter at Sealy_Shane. I'm out.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex on the G. Flex.